Good afternoon, and welcome to the IAFC's Educational Webinar Series. Today, we have an exciting new technology for you to demo and see, and we really are excited about this. So, a couple housekeeping things we'll go through first. Make sure the audio is being broadcast using VoIP technology through your computer speaker or headset. Please make sure your speakers or headsets are turned on and the volume is turned up. Audience microphones have been muted. If you experience any technical difficulties, please contact the IFC support at webinars@ifc.org or via the chat function. We're monitoring that. Next. We do have a chat and Q&A and handout section to the top right of your screen. You'll see that there. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll find the chat and Q&A menus. You're encouraged to share your comments and submit questions for your speakers. If the presenters have provided resource materials, which they have, the links will be provided in the handout section. And we encourage everybody to just jump in the chat and say who you are and where you're from for us. The recording will take place after the webinar. You'll be sent that link along with a brief survey about today's webinar. Please let us know about your experience today so we can make your experience better. Upcoming events, if you put on your calendars, the Community Risk Reduction Leadership Conference is going on this week in Glendale, Arizona. The International Hazmat Conference in Baltimore, June 5 through 7. Fire Rescue International, our landmark conference every year, is in Dallas this year, August 14 through 16. Symposium in the Sun will be in Clearwater, Florida, November 14th through the 17th. Thank you again to our sponsor, First Do. I can't tell you enough about the partnership that the IAFC and First Do have, and we have always worked great together in trying to address the needs of the fire service. I think what you're going to see today is really going to blow your minds. The IAFC, we're always talking about the full breadth and depth of the fire in technology experience. And this you're going to see here, taking from a pre-plan all the way through an operational exercise. And it's going to give you that understanding of the connected universe that we're living in and being able to share data instantaneously within one ecosystem. So again, thank you very much, First Do, for this webinar. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Jeff. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this joint presentation from IAFC and First Do. Today, we're excited to present Plan, Respond, Command, the next-gen digital solution for improved incident response. In addition to Jeff, who was just talking to you, I'm joined today by my colleagues, Ronnie Smith from First Do, who's the senior product expert on this command and responder and pre-plan module we're going to be talking about today, discussing how it integrates. If you have any questions along the way, please be sure to enter them into the Q&A, which Ari and Ronnie and Kyle, all from First Do, are going to be monitoring today. Today, we're focusing on pre-plans, responder, hydrants, and our new command functionality. But as you can see here on our wheel of products, we have best-of-breed solutions for all aspects of fire department operations, such as inspections, incident reporting, scheduling, assets and inventory, as well as other departmental functions. And because they're all located within one platform, cloud-based technology under a single login, we share data between these modules where appropriate. We're going to see some of that today as we walk through. First Do is a cloud-based solution. We're platform agnostic. We operate on any modern web browser. We also feature our own iOS and Android apps, and they not only act as a secondary response platform, but also touch any other component of the platform that you may use and need to have access in the field. We're constantly innovating our modules with an enhancement cycle of about 6 to 8 weeks, and our team consists of both fire EMS veterans working with our development team. But before we get started, I want to highlight one special part of our team, our customer service component. That starts when you implement a system with your implementation manager and individual module specialists that support your implementation process. After implementation, you go to our training department where they walk you through, educate your power users and your users as appropriate. And finally, after that, you're joined by our 24-hour support system featuring both a help desk and call center. And additionally, we have a client success manager. That's somebody in your region, a personalized point of contact for all your needs within the First Do platform. First Do has been in existence for a number of years now. We have over 1,500 clients spread out between the 50 United States and most provinces in Canada. We're one of Inc. 5000's fastest growing companies in the fire and EMS realm, and we serve both major metropolitan departments such as New Orleans, Seattle, down to the smallest department that might have applications that they need, because we're scalable, we're modular, we share the data, we make your operations very simple. Today, we're going to be talking about our response and command solution. So let's look at our topics. Today, we're going to equip responders with key pre-incident insights for proactive readiness, including pre-plans, hydrant data, occupancy data. Then we're going to respond through our responder dashboard. We're going to diminish response times. We're also going to access a CAD feed, bring that information into your response view so you can access it from your pre-plan. Finally, command. Access a digital command board for effective resource management, transparent tactical decisions, less radio traffic, and a safer scene for your first responder. Finally, reporting and after action reports. Capitalize on the data you've collected, both in your pre-plans and the occupancy record, and through the command board to have it post-incident wrap-up and improved accountability and better command structures in the future as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our demo site, and I'm going to make sure everybody can see my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and move this particular item off. And we're going to go ahead and talk about pre-plans. This is a pre-plan I've built at a location down in the Atlanta, Georgia area for our demonstration today. As a reminder, per NFPA 1620, a pre-plan is defined as a document developed by gathering general information or detailed data for use by personnel responding to an incident to effectively manage the emergency for the protection of occupants, participants, responding personnel, property, and the environment, unquote. In the past, we've had these as static documents, either in a 3-ring binder or a PDF that was addressed by many various methods, which had the potential for being out of date. Let's look at the First Due pre-plan module and look at this example that I've built. This is an overhead view of a Publix. This is our responder screen. This is a Public Markets. You're seeing it in a Google Earth view. We can also switch to a Google Map view. Go ahead and have that information access all those Google tools you're familiar with. As you can see down here in the bottom, I also have the capability of switching to an ArcGIS view. And when I do switch to that ArcGIS view, as you can see in this example of the metropolitan Atlanta area, I can bring not only any base maps or imagery on the Esri servers, but I can also bring in any GIS layers that you might have access to that would be pertinent to your response. These can include, in this case, the battalions in the Atlanta area. Also, I have the rapid transit stops. Other examples would include hydrant layers, evacuation zones, flood zones, wildfires, interface zones. That can all be brought in and implemented into your pre-plan process as well. I'm going to return back over here to my Google Earth view, and we're going to walk through what we're seeing. As you can see, I've got the familiar icons we're used to seeing in a pre-plan. I've got some utility disconnects back here on the Charlie side. Here on the Charlie Bravo corner, I've got a gas disconnect. I also have my alarm control panel indicated, an AED, an FDC. These are all attributes because all of our icons, including our pre-plans, hazmat, and hydrant icons are GIS layers within the system. Hence, they can contain attribute data, information about that specific icon. In this case, if I click my alarm control panel, I can have specific information about that particular panel, such as the reset code. More importantly, as a former backwards firefighter, the FDC, I can see where it's located. As we all know, they sometimes get hidden behind bushes, walls, don't know where they're at. Having a picture of it's worth a million words. And just to top it off, I've added a measurement showing how far it is off that Alpha Bravo corner as well. I also have 2 hydrants in this particular view. These are coming in from our hydrant module. If I click on these, I can go ahead and get specific hydrant information, such as the flow rate, when it was last tested. If I need to initiate either service or flow testing, I can do that. If there's an issue with the hydrant directly from this screen, I can create a hydrant work order as well, and we can send a message out to the water department with the information about the hydrant, so they need to go ahead and have that repair in order so we can have a good water supply as well. And when I say hydrant module, just don't think hydrants, think of any water source. You can change the icon here so you can indicate any drafting sources, cisterns, or other water supplies that you might use if you don't have a sufficient hydrant system as well. You'll also notice I have this view. I've got a couple suites on the side. That's important because as I activate our pre-plan dashboard, you're going to notice it's going to say parent address. Those icons are great to look at, great to click on, get information about. But as I'm going down the road, I need a view that's going to be easy to consume for myself. So I've activated my pre-planned dashboard. It's indicating I've got a parent address. That means I've built this strip center with the public out as a overall parent-child relationship. And when I do that, I can have an individual pre-plan, inspection process, contact information for the shell of the building. Additionally, I can have separate pre-plans, inspection process, contact information for each suite within. And I'm going to have the ability to have insight between those two. As you can see, I don't see any icons on either of these suites, but based on the magnification levels, if I come in a little bit closer, I now have ability to view into those suites and see that information in there as well. I'm reaching into the CAD system in this particular case, and I'm pulling the address in. And I've also got my pre-plan story. The pre-plan story is configurable by your agency, and it can be configured based on the type of occupancy you're responding to. So you can have one pre-plan story for a factory, a different one for a regular business. You can even have pre-plan stories for residential structures. When we implement your system, we're going to bring in all address points in your service area. So your pre-planning can also include EMS. So if you go for a bariatric patient, you have a known hoarder house. You want to indicate that to keep your members safe, preventing back injuries or other type of contamination. You can note that in the system. So we're taking our pre-plans from just those isolated major incidents that we want to be able to respond to an all hazards concept as well. You'll also notice that I've taken those icons that I've shown you and I've blown them up into tiles. I've brought the information associated with them along. So in this case, I've got my sprinkler information. For any hazmat I enter, I have that in there by UN code so I can access the emergency response guide directly from my pre-plan without having to shuffle for the orange book, which is always falling between the seats anyways. Same thing with contact information. I have the name of my contact. If I'm on a phone-enabled device, I can directly call him from that device, bringing him in. I can also automatically create these tiles based on data within the system. Example, if I have a red tag building that we only want defensive operations on, I just need to go into the occupancy record, indicate it's dangerous. The system knows enough to create a tile and say defensive operations only on that structure. Same contact with our Community Connect module. If you've indicated a functional needs individual, we'll automatically create a tile and indicate there's possibly a disabled person in the house, so your crews will need to go into rescue mode as well. Below that, I've got any legacy pre-plans that you might need to attach. So if I want to go ahead and attach a legacy pre-plan that might be in the 3-ring binder in a PDF form, I'm going to have the capability of doing that. I can also bring in Tier 2 documentation, client supplied drawings. Clients utilizing Community Connect can also submit attachments for your pre-plan as well. And you can go ahead and supervise that flow of information through Community Connect, which we'd invite you to reach out to your reps if you want to hear more about. I'm also going to reach, in addition to Community Connect, over to my fire prevention module. So in this case, I've got a fire and life safety inspection and scheduled for today. If I had any open violations, I'd be able to see that information in here. And then finally, pre-incident planning. I'm going to go ahead and review the information in the occupancy record, have a more granular view of that data, so I can go ahead and look at that if I have time to look at that and consume that data. And if you're using the Bricer compliance engine within your jurisdiction, you can go ahead and we'll scrape their system and identify any red tag sprinklers, standpipes, alarm systems, and they'll also appear on that dashboard as well. On the right-hand side, as you build out your pre-plans, you have access to the Google Earth tools. The most important one is the measurement tool. So you can measure those crucial distances that you want to embed in your pre-plans, save those in. You can also use this measurement tool when you're responding to estimate lays of hose for the hydrant connection as well. I did mention the ability to bring in GIS layers and bring those in, and you can access those evacuation layers. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes I want to attach specific information to a structure. We give you the ability to annotate the structure. And what I mean by that is I can draw on it. So in this case, if I want to identify specific sprinkler zones, or if I want to indicate an evacuation area, send a member over there to get a head count, make sure everybody's out of the building. But more pertinent to our discussion today, fireground considerations is part of your pre-planning process. Instead of a little text box on the document of important stuff that might hurt your members, a picture's worth a million words. So in this case, I've indicated a loading dock, warehouse, overhead storage with stair access, The purple is representing some overhangs here that might fall on my hose and impinge my hose access or injure one of my members. I've even gone as far as pre-planning a courtyard lay into that loading dock as well. That's an overview of our pre-plans module, or rather the pre-plans and how we're going to build those out. But we also need to administer a pre-plan program. So we need to keep these constantly updated. In this case, we have a pre-plan organizer. This is one of the components of the pre-plan module. This allows you to assign specific cycles or due dates for your pre-plans. You can also assign them to individual users within the system or a team. In the first due environment, a team is a collection of users you assign, but we also have apparatus-based logins. So you can have specific apparatus logins, assign pre-plans to engine 1A, 1B, 1C. And through the pre-plan organizer, you can even rotate those pre-plans. So every couple of years, A shifts get C shifts and so on, getting fresh eyes on the pre-plans as well. This also becomes a search engine within your system. So I mentioned those functional needs individuals we can identify through Community Connect or automatically created tiles. I can search those as well as all the other fields you see here. So in this case, I've identified all my functional needs users. So if there's a weather event and I want to check on them, I have a list of all them. I can either have this as a static view within the engine. I can also print it, or I can have a map view. So I can go ahead and look at that as well and go from house to house checking on those individuals. If I've been assigned any pre-plans, I'm going to have a unique view of those pre-plans that I've been assigned. And I also have that same search functionality. I have an overall pre-plans map and list, expiring items. We'll talk about that in a little bit as we update a pre-plan in real time after a hypothetical incident. But that allows me to go ahead and pull tiles out of the system based on an expiration date, pre-plan unit category. We deploy the system with a number of icons. If you don't want to use some of them, you can inactivate those, but you can also upload images and create your own unique icons as well. That way you'll have a unique data set. In addition, on the annotation side, instead of red being red, red can be sprinkler zone 1. That way you have a common appearance to all your pre-plans, so we have sample SOPs and SOGs as well. I did mention your pre-plans pull information from an occupancy record. That's also where they live. This is what the occupancy record looks like for this particular location. In this case, you'll see I've got occupancy specific information, including those demographics of the building. So I can indicate those parent-child relationships, dimensions of the building. That data is going to flow into my fire incident reporting. Any information that I want to flow into the pre-plan story, including those mentioned needed fire flow and OVAP scoring calculators. This is also where my inspections, any violations associated with those inspections, permitting and invoicing for each individual occupancy are going to be showing as well. One of the problems that I mentioned with traditional pre-plans, as we've currently experienced, is we all know that they're static. They're not changed that often. It's difficult to change those. So if I need to change that pre-plan information, it's going to take some effort. I'm going to have to distribute documents or upload those to a certain website. But I also want to be able to bring that information up. So we're going on a motor vehicle accident, and I'm going to go ahead and respond to this call. As you can see on the right-hand side, I have statusing, so I can input times into my fire incident report as my units are responding. I also have access, without even opening the dashboard, to the information within that building story. I've got a status log, so I can see what units are showing. I have quick routing capability. Utilizing a mapping tool, I can see which routes are congested, and I can go ahead and respond to this call in an efficient manner, utilizing the CAD data that's flowing in from the system. In addition to that, once I arrive on scene on this hypothetical call, I mentioned the ability to go ahead and measure if I need a hydrant lay. But in this case, I have a car versus a hydrant. Everybody's okay. So I want to go ahead and indicate that I'm going to take that hydrant out of service. I'm going to click on this particular hydrant. I'm going to enter a service test. I'm going to indicate I'm taking this out now. I've updated that information, and I'm going to go ahead and put any notes that I need to in here as well. But now I've taken that hydrant out of service, and you'll note I've got a visual indication that that hydrant's out of service, and I've notified the water department through our work order board as well. I've cleared my motor vehicle accident. I've gone ahead and notified the water department, but being an efficient company officer, I've noticed they're doing some construction in front of the Publix today, and it's going to interfere with the items that are on pallets with my access to that building if I have to come back for an incident. From my mobile responder app or the laptop in the engine, you have the availability, because we're on multiple platforms, being platform agnostic, I can make a change to my pre-plan. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and select the warning icon. This is where you'd also access any icons that you might bring into the system. I'm going to go ahead and place that. Because it's a new item, I want to make it extra big. I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, this is some temporary construction in this place. So I'm going to go ahead and note that. And then I can go ahead and add a picture in here as well. So if I want to go ahead and indicate, hey, this is the issue, I've got all these pallets that are going to interfere with your access, I can do that. I want this to be apparent as the crews are showing. So I'm going to change the zoom level so it's going to be the first thing they see. And if the building manager comes out to me and says, hey, these are going to be here just through the weekend, they'll be out of here on Monday, I can set this to expire either on my review back at the station or automatically remove itself from the system. But once I hit publish, I've updated my pre-plan in near real time. And so if engine one's been on this call and they go to a different call, engine two comes back a minute or two later, they have information about those pallets on the sidewalk as well. I'll pause and see if there's any questions we need to address online while I grab a quick sip of water. Okay. With no questions, we go back to the fire station, we grab a great dinner, and just after we finish dinner, of course, we get knocked out for another fire call. This time we're going back to Publix, but in this case, it looks like it's a commercial structure fire. So once again, I'm en route to this call. I'm going to access my pre-plan. You'll see I have that information about those particular items on the sidewalk there. I know that I have a hydrant out of service, and I'm the incident commander in this case. You see I've got my CAD feed showing across the top. I'm showing up to the scene and I need to take command of this scene. I'm going to go ahead and select the command board. And this is where you get to define the type of incidents that you're going to have. You create templates within the system. I'm going to go ahead and open up a template, but I'm going to kick it over to my good friend Ronnie to tell you how they came about developing the command board and some of the concepts behind that while I populate some apparatus into this particular response. Ronnie?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mike. So with the command boards, all the things that First Do does and all the different modules that we provide, we want to be able to provide an avenue for company officers and incident commanders to be able to take command of incidents and maintain that accountability. So what we did was we created this digital command board. So while you're looking at all of that information that First Do provides in the pre-planning side of things that we've been doing so great for so long, adding that extra piece to actually maintain that accountability. And you'll see when you're on scene here, all those units will connect to CAD. Those names will auto-populate. If you're on, Sesame Street, you'll be Sesame Command. Those kind of things that we do day to day. We're working to auto-populate all of those things. And Mike's going to explain all the things that he's doing in the background. But it was real important that, with all the things that First Do does and all the modules that we have, that we're able to provide something that you don't have to go separately, get out of a screen and go to something separate. I want you to live within First Do, utilize all that vital information with all the gaps that we're bridging from pre-planning and prevention to fire inspections. And then when we actually get down to actually running that operational call, all of that information is able to be leveraged, and then we can get into the accountability of that incident. And with that, I'll give it back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Ronnie. So as you can see, while Ronnie was talking to you guys, I went ahead and did some initial assignments, put some people in search, vent, rehab, setting those tasks up as well. Let's explore the command board, and we'll start up here in the upper left-hand corner. As you can see, one of the key things of having a command structure is I want to identify to everybody what I'm doing. So I've determined I'm going to have an offensive strategy. The command board user is me. This can also be apparatus-based, as I mentioned, but I'm on our demo site, so I'm going to go ahead and just use my name. But I also have the ability to go ahead and add notes to my command structure. The system's indicating I'm in command. You'll recall NFPA 1500 says we have to have an incident clock. As you can see, I've got my overall incident clock running in here. But when we set this up, you're going to define templates in the system to go ahead and say, this is the command structure, tasks, checklist items that I want for a commercial structure fire or a residential structure fire. While you can have an entirely different set of tasks and checklist items to implement your IAP for a motor vehicle accident with extrication, multi-casualty EMS call. That's all easily figurable within the system, and based on the type of incident you're dispatched to, you can bring that in. Another important part of command is accountability and visibility for all the other crews that are coming. So if I'm coming in and I'm going to go ahead and take staging on this particular call, and you'll notice my name on the login is changed to Mike Test. This is a secondary account I use. I'm going to go ahead and arrive in staging. In this case, I want to see what the incident commander is doing, but I can't interfere with his command structure. So I've opened up a view-only view, and that's showing me all that incident clock, the PAR timers, all the assignments that have made. So I have full disclosure out to my crews in the field and on their apparatus what they're doing as well. I'm bringing my information about the dispatch. I've just named this incident IAFC command. And as you can see, I have my command board. As I mentioned while Ronnie was talking, I assigned Battalion 1 to IC, Battalion 2 is Safety Officer. I can also drop somebody in as PIO. As I'm dispatched additional units, they're going to be coming in, flowing into my unassigned units. For this particular structure, this template I've made for this command board, you see I've got my fire attack, search, vent, rehab, what we'd expect to see on a fire. But because I have a crew interior, I want to designate somebody as lead. So I want to have interior command. So I've made Engine 10 that. I simply selected that, and I've gone ahead and made him lead. You'll also notice, concentrating on my fire attack task, I've got the overall task timer. This started when I signed my first unit in, and each individual unit's running a separate timer to indicate how long they've been in, say, ILDH or in rehab as well. I can do that for other items. So I'm going to go ahead and make Engine 2. I'm going to go ahead and make him staging. I'm going to go ahead and have Engine 15 in charge of search. They're all indicating with that blue bar at the top, and just for good measure and completeness, I'm going to go ahead and make Ladder 201 the vent command as well, their roof command. So I've gone ahead and I've placed my assignments. I also have time-stamped these into the log, which we're going to explore towards the end of our discussion of the command board. But I also have a checklist item. And once again, this is based on the type of incident, but I can also manually add checklist items, but these are all going to be time-stamped as well. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say I've got my size up complete. I've got my 2 in, 2 out. I have a primary search underway. I've got RIT established. This is a demo process, so it's going to be a little compressed based on what we're used to. But as you can see, I'm identifying all those. And if I have a Mayday process, I have a totally separate checklist, so I can immediately go to that. I don't have to search it out of a particular item. We talked about you're going to leverage your pre-plan in this as well. This is the overview of the pre-plan. So in this case, this is that same pre-plan we've looked at. And hey, remember that hydrant we took out of service is the incident commander. I have information about that. I know when it was taken out of service, why it was taken out of service. I know that I've got my current hydrant that's working here, and I'm going to have viewpoints of all the information that we've looked at. So if I want to go ahead and look at my pre-plan information, I've got that. I have my UN, my ERG looking up. All the information that I showed you on the pre-plan, I have a more modified view, more reasonable for what an incident commander would want to see. I'm also tracking my assignments, so you can see I can track that information, and I can also put in requests. So in this case, I know I want to go ahead and get electric out here to secure the utility. So I'm going to go ahead and ask them to respond. Of course, I'm going to have to ask dispatch, but I've time-stamped when I've requested them in as well. I also can indicate where my units are operating on a map as well. So this would be especially valuable on big structures or also wildfire situations. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and indicate I've got fire attack here. I've got vent, they're up on the roof as well. And I've got search underway coming in on this side. And I also want to indicate utilizing that common operating picture that I mentioned in the view only mode of where I want my staging to be. And also I'm just going to throw a RIT over here as well. So I'm tracking all these items, but you'll also notice I know who interior command is because I have that on this view. I've indicated that as well. And then quickly, we'll pop in and look. That log, everything we've been doing has been logged with a timestamp, and that information is all available in there as well. At this point, I've had a crew inside the ILDH for a little bit. Engine 10 was first in, so I'm going to go ahead and send them over to rehab. I'm going to drag them into rehab. You'll notice it broke the link that says they're now interior command. I'm going to go ahead and also restart their timer. so I know how long they're going to be in rehab and I can track that information. I'm going to go ahead and pull somebody out of staging, bring him over to fire attack and have them assist engine 15. And you'll notice I've started their timer in there as well, so I'm able to track that information. If I want to transfer command, or the chief of the department shows up and he wants to assume command, from the view only mode, I can go ahead and request I can request command. Or if I know he's on scene and I want to enforce a face-to-face transfer of command, I can go face-to-face, select him out of the system. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and offer it over to Mike Test and say I want to transfer it. But in this case, for demo purposes, I'm going to go ahead and keep command on this particular board as well. Working my way down my task list, I've got my fire under control, my secondary search is all clear. I've got my loss stopped. So I'm going to go ahead and start terminating some tasks on this. So for my staging, I'm going to go ahead and shut that down. I want to indicate that. I've also cleared the roof. They've vented the structure properly. I've gone ahead and brought that in. I want to send somebody else to go in and do some additional fire attack so I can create a unit on the fly. So in this case, I want to go ahead and bring engine 1 in. Oops, I mistyped that. I'm going to go ahead and bring engine 1, but I'm also going to task them together with medic 1. That's going to create and join those two units together so I can go ahead and bring them and put them on fire attack as well, relieving engine 15 and engine 8 over there to go into rehab. And I've once again restarted those timers as well. If I need to indicate something important, because I have that common operating picture philosophy, I want to mention, hey, I don't want anybody to go to this section of the building. I've had some minor collapses there. I'm going to indicate that's a no-go area. I'm going to go ahead and select that, create a temporary annotation, and note that, and it's going to be on that structure where everybody can see that as well. With that, I'll go ahead and pause briefly, see if Ronnie wants to add anything since he is the product expert on this.
Yeah, Mike, if you want to switch back over to the board real quick and just to kind of talk about, I know you're moving units there in the beginning. A lot of times, we're going to be listening to the radio while en route on a call, right? So if you're in your command vehicle and you hear engine 13 get on scene or engine 15 get on scene, they have engine 13 working for them. He identifies, whether you're using blue card or whatever ICS vernacular that your organization is using, they're going to get on scene, run their 360s, and start developing that IAP to assign those units out. So before you even drag yourself over to IC, you can hit the take command button and then start moving those units around. We call it kind of fat fingering, right? Because we're driving, we're trying to document all that stuff. And in the past, you might have a little notepad or your white legal pad out and you're trying to write all that stuff down, get on scene and get that stuff situated. So with this, being able to click and drag and get all that stuff, all that IAP stuff identified in your assignments, when you get on scene, you can take your unit and drag it off to the left there. And that's why it says, the command board user is an individual, because you may have somebody else or a scribe if you're staffed well enough to have somebody to be able to do all that, to be able to slide those command positions over. A lot of great functionality there just initially with the connecting to CAD, getting all of your assignments out there. And through the templates, you're not having to create that stuff on the fly.
Awesome. Thank you, Ronnie. So we've gone ahead and we're going to go ahead and conclude our command structure in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and hit complete. Then that brings us to the next item that we wanted to talk about. We've completed our incident. We need to report on the incident and have some after action reporting. We have our incident log. So in this case, everything that I've done on this particular incident has been automatically logged. I do have the ability to automatically create log entries in there as well. It's indicating who did it. I can have search functionality, but most importantly, I can download this and attach this to the actual fire incident report for this particular incident. Additionally, it's archived within the system. So if I refresh this screen, I had opened it up previously, you'll see I have this IAFC command running at the address we were at in Atlanta, and I can go ahead and have a view only. So I can go ahead and use this command board for an after action analysis, see what functions were taken using that log, also looking at the map views, bringing that in as well. And speaking of fire incident reporting, our pre-planned data also came into account. So all the information that I showed you in my actual pre-planned report, as far as incident and the occupancy record, is also within the fire incident report. So if I set this as a building fire, which it automatically did, I have all my apparatus that responded, but most importantly, I'm bringing in information that's in the system, such as property type where the incident occurred. Because it's a structure fire, I need to know construction and structure type. property status, dimensions of the building, floors above and below grade. This is just a brief example of that data sharing we do within our platform to have all the information shared where appropriate through the system. In the near future, for incidents with exposures to personnel, we're getting ready, we're going to have an upcoming health and wellness module. So from that actual incident, you can populate everybody who was on that actual incident into health and wellness. You're going to track who was on the incident, but each member's personnel record is going to have a longitudinal record going forward of any type of exposure they have in their personnel record at all, for that tracking of cancer presumption, as we're all familiar with it, for health and wellness as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ronnie, our product team, for a little bit further discussion. But before I do that, I do want to highlight, you can see my QRS code over here. You can scan this QR code to get in touch with First Due so that we can coordinate with you for a customized tour of our platform. And we're not only going to focus on what we saw today, but other best of breed modules such as inspections, scheduling, assets and inventory, and more. Or you can go to our website, and don't forget the attachments that we've attached this webinar and brought in, and download those and access those. And this will be available recorded, I believe, too, as well. And with that, I'll open it up for Q&A.
Hey, Mike, can you pop back into the command board and just kind of show the log of how everything's documented once more?
Yep. So in this case, just in this one little demonstration, I've got 53 elements in here.
We're not seeing it there, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
There we go.
So in this case, this is my log entry. So as you can see, I've documented everything I did in here just in our brief 5-6 minute demonstration at command board. I had 53 elements come in here. It's indicating what the task was. The log entry indicates what was actually done. So the top of the list is that annotation I created. It's also been time-stamped in the log. So within our ad hoc reporting engine, we have the ability to calculate within columns and create time intervals. So you can access this through ad hoc and have actual incident breakdowns based on those time differentials in the system. I also am going to be able to look at Engine 8. So if I want to see everything a particular unit on this apparatus did, I can go in and have that as well. And then I can also come in, if I want to, specifically add any information into that log. So if I want to have a picture of that collapse zone and indicated why I did that, I can attach that file here and bring that in as well. Ronnie, is there anything else you wanted me to show?
Did we make sure on the map view that we showed that every time someone's assigned as a leader that their timers are always showing? Yep, great.
Yep.
So regardless of, and the reason for a lot of that is regardless of what's going on, and we want you to be able to remain in the command board, stay accountable, know where units are assigned, and who's assigned to where. Right, we want to maintain that span of control of 1 to 5 in everything that we do. And as those things happen, we're able to, regardless of the screen that we're in the tab, whether we're in the board, the overview, or the log, that we're still seeing the overall timer and those checklist items getting done. You'll see that he has completed right there. So it's important to know that, you know, if your organization is utilizing the command board, if you're at home or in the station and didn't get dispatched to it, or sitting and staging, everybody else outside of the commander will have a view only of the command board. So everybody can be playing off the same sheet of music while I'm sitting and staging, waiting to get assigned. I can know, what incidents have been or what units have been assigned to the incident and who's in charge of what. So if I get assigned a search, I know who I'm working for and kind of how this IAP has flowed through it. So a lot of great stuff here. And then we have a couple of questions in here. So we'll just see if we can answer a couple just out loud here. So can crews captains view the incident log to assist with creating reports? Absolutely. So you won't, based on permissions, you won't be able to edit the log. Other people may be able to based on that permission, but everybody else can go in and take a look at that log to see kind of how that incident played out. You can also export them, so you can actually attach that log to an infers report if that's something operationally that your department adopts. So there's another question about the responder app. Is there a way to see my volunteers responding to the station? And is there a way for my volunteers to place themselves responding to the firehouse? My buddy Kyle here is answering online, but I'll answer it live as well. You have a set of 6 statuses that you can actually customize in the mobile app. So if you had it, we have some organizations that'll say they're responding to pick up a tender, and those individuals know which tender they're supposed to be going to. You can customize those. So you'll see them responding to station, responding on a status. You can customize each one of those, and that'll get timestamped and documented. And then at the bottom of the mobile screen, you'll be able to see that they clicked that status. And then there's another one. Can the dispatch center make a log entry like when electrical company is requested? Also, could dispatch start a command board, and then when command arrives, transfer it to them? So if you have a great relationship with your CAD center, they can open up a command board and they could click and drag everything over to it. Now, in the command board, you can click and either transfer command, but there's also a permission to assume command. And we do that for 2 reasons. One, maybe your iPad dies and you need to get in another, or somebody else needed to take command from you. That's one instance, right? Maybe you become part of the operation because you're offensive with a rescue, and the next arriving battalion chief has to take command. So they arrive on scene and they hit assume command and pull that. They can do the same thing with your dispatch center. If they're documenting the IAP as it's being developed and you arrive on scene, you can hit assume command because you have that permission, and then you're in charge of the command board.
And Ronnie, while you were chatting, I did bring up the mobile responder app. So as you can see, the buttons Ronnie was referring to are the grayed out buttons here. And also if I page down, you'll see all those units that responded to this particular location. But the great thing about our mobile responder app is everything that I showed you on my desktop today, doing the pre-plan, updating the pre-plan, even doing an inspection, I can do that all within the mobile responder app. And I have those status logs, so I can go ahead and see people coming in to the call, and I can also track them geospatially within the system. So if I go ahead and bring up, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Fairfax County. This is a view of our friends down in Fairfax. So let me find a fire incident. And in this case, I can go ahead and see any information about what they're doing and have that particular view of that as well.
So a couple more questions there, Mike, that I'm going to try to answer here live.
Okay.
Does a request need to be put into access the command board? So all things in the command board are permission based. So you can set who has access to the command board, who has editability, who is able to access the log. You're able to set those permissions within FirstView. So as you create roles, again, operationally, you're going to figure out how that works for your organization and who needs to have access. Just like the transfer and assume command, that's also a separate permission. So as you roll this out, our implementation manager will review all those separate permissions and how you can utilize those to meet your operational need. There was another question about towns next to you who use FirstView. When they get assigned to your incident, can they see the command board? And 100%. So you can create, we have mutual aid agreements. We all have mutual or automatic aid agreements. And so if they're dispatched, their units are going to show up on your command board, and you're going to be able to utilize them appropriately. They're also with those mutual aid agreements, you do have the ability to provide them logins, or those battalion chiefs logins, or as many logins as you need, because FirstView is FirstView allows you to create as many logins for your organization, right? We're not licensures for each device, right? And so you're able to create those logins, and then you can switch on the fly to another organization to see their command board should you need to. There was one other question: is there a way for responders to create and manage their own calls in a situation such as a major weather event with multiple calls? Yes, 100%. So you are able to manage those calls. If you created one command board and we're placing things for those multiple events or those multiple calls in an area, there's going to be a pre-plan icon, probably about 10 of them that are going to be default that you'll customize for the command board, and that'll all be done in setup.
And I was going to add to that, Ronnie, my basis of yes was from the mobile responder app. Even you can create an incident and dispatch units to that through the FirstView application.
Yep, 100%, Mike. So there's also about the question of assigning individual department members directly to assignments in the same manner. You can assign units, and absolutely. So you can create units on the fly, right? And so when you're in the command board, Mike, if you want to pop over to there real quick. And right now this one's closed. But if
Yeah,
you go to
let
the
me open
board
up a
there,
different one.
yeah, no problem. When you're in there, you can add names. You can add, Smith and Gordy as just one unit, and never call them an engine one or something like that. We're going to have volunteers show up on scene and become part of operations, and different organizations operate differently. So up there next to assigned units, there's a little plus icon when the incident isn't complete, and so you're able to add those units on the fly and add those individuals. Christopher, you had the question about the mutual aid without having to relog in. We're actually working on just the solution to that right now. So if both organizations are using FirstDue, we're working on that in the background. Should have that available soon. Right now, it's the relogin. There's a quick login that we have for people that are mutual aid partners, to where you can just switch over real quick.
Are there any more questions that we can address before we kind of wind things up here today? Okay, well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and conclude this webinar for the day. Just as a reminder, up on the screen, you have the QR code. Please scan that to get in touch with us so we can set up a customized tour. Like I said, we have a number of modules. The system's designed to be able to fit the needs of your agency with a best of breed functionality. So our scheduler, top of line, assets and inventory, all top of line, bringing that information in. So we're delighted to reach out to you, show you what we've got. Also, please go to our website. We have a lot of videos on there. You can also reach out to our sales development representatives, and they can go ahead and set up that demonstration for you. And please don't forget to download any attachments that you might see over in those attachments as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to my friend Jeff.
So, hey, this is Ron Cantor chiming in over on the FirstDue side. I think Jeff is we're gonna send us all out on behalf of Jeff Doolan. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join into today's webinar. This IFC webinar presented here with our team at FirstDue. Wanted to make some clarification. So those links that we're talking about, you get them over in the handouts panel. Also, you see them on the screen right now. Please go get ahead and get scheduled with our team if you'd like to see more of this command module or piece of the command module or any other piece of the FirstDue Fire EMS suite. Wanted to also let you guys know, please feel free, look out for upcoming FirstDue webinars and IIFC webinars and ensure that you get scheduled. In addition to the FirstDue and IFC presence at events that are upcoming, including FRI. And if your prevention team is over at the Community Risk Reduction Leadership Conference right now going on in Glendale, tell them to stop by and please say hello. Once more, we're really, really happy everybody was able to join in. And thank you to Mike and thank you to our whole team, Ronnie and everyone who led us through today's webinar. Please look out over your email if you want to share a recording of today's webinar with your crew. And without further ado, I wish you a great rest of your day. And thank you once again for spending your afternoon with us.
Thank you,
Bye now.
everybody.